been around.
In case they are recording the audio, then you have to speak.
Oh, okay. So we'll speak again. So good afternoon. My name is Mahlum, and I'm the founder and president of Back on My Feet. And to explain the organization, you really have to understand a little bit about me personally. While this is my full-time job, this is much more than that to me. It's my mission, it's my purpose, it's everything who I am. So I grew up in Bismarck, North Dakota, and had a pretty perfect life, to be honest with you. I had a great family, really great friends. School was pretty easy, sports were pretty easy, and I remember even thinking at a very young age, probably 10 or 12, that my life was going to continue on. It was just going to be perfect, and I had no reason to think otherwise. I had this plan laid out that I was going to go to college, get married to some guy who was going to be maybe 6'2", brown hair, blue eyes. I was going to have 2.2 kids, and it was just going to be fun. I actually had paint picked out for my house, and I was really a daddy's girl. My dad and I have a really great relationship. I'm the most athletic in my family. I have a brother and a sister. My sister's more musical and artsy. My brother is more into video games. So we had a great relationship growing up. My dad would drive hours to watch me play basketball. And when I was 16, all of my dreams and aspirations of having this perfect life somewhat got stalled. That was a year, most difficult year probably of my life. I was 16 years old. It was the summer before my sophomore year in high school, and I was sitting downstairs watching TV, and my dad came home and asked me, my brother and my sister, if we could leave for a little bit so we could talk to my mom. And that was really weird. My dad's never asked me to leave the house so we could talk to my mom before. So I leave, I come back, I'm the first one to come back, and I see my dad, my superhero dad, sitting on the couch looking pretty somber and embarrassed and not really sure what to say. So I sit next to him, and my dad told me he had been struggling with a gambling addiction for the past 2 years of his life, and it got to a point where he really didn't know where to turn. People were looking for him, he owed all kinds of money, and it was like out of a movie. But being 16 years old, I really didn't understand the magnitude of what my dad was telling me. My responsibility as his daughter is to tell him everything's going to be fine, it's a bad day, we'll figure it out, which is what I did. My mom had different plans. That was not her first introduction to my dad's addictive behaviors. He went through alcohol and drug recovery when I was really young, 5 years old. I've never seen my dad drink or do any drugs, and I was just kind of thought it was part of his past and wasn't going to impact my life. So my mom kicked my dad out that day. Money for her was her Achilles heel. My parents didn't make a lot of money. My dad sold insurance. My mom was a teacher, and so he gambled away pretty much everything that we owned, and my mom was obviously furious. So I spent the next 3 years of my life being really upset with my mom. Marriage was something that I valued, and I didn't understand why she was letting money sort of trump the vows that she said to my dad, and I really blamed her for destroying our family, and placed no blame on my dad whatsoever. I also spent those 3 years of my life trying to fix my father, thinking, you know what, why don't you just stop gambling and then we'll be okay? And obviously addiction doesn't work that way. When you're a 16-year-old kid, I felt like my dad was choosing addiction over me, choosing going to the casino over me and my family, and very difficult for me to deal with. So used to being this girl that everybody kind of looked up to and was almost an envy of, is what I felt like, to the girl that everybody was talking about. Anne's addictive, father, and did you hear what happened to Anne and her family? And the only place that I could go that I wasn't being judged was on the road. It was running. It was a time that I had to myself, that I set the rules, I set the terms, I determined how far I'm going to go, when I'm going to stop, and just provided me with so much strength, a positive outlet for me to let go of all these negative emotions that I didn't know what to do with. So I continue on to college. I go to graduate school out in D.C. actually, and then I find myself in Philadelphia in 2005. My relationship with my parents has remained somewhat the same through all this time. I'm getting along with my mom a little bit better, only because we're not seeing each other every day. And it's hard to know how my dad was doing, because when you're an addict, if you don't want someone to know what you're doing, it's a very secret disease. You don't expose that to especially family and friends. So I got offered, like I said, I moved to Philadelphia, got a job offer up there. My first reaction was, who the hell lives in Philly? Pardon my French. but I really had no desire to be in that city. So went there, moved into an up-and-coming neighborhood, started working for a nonprofit, and really began to feel like that I wasn't doing with my life what I should be doing. I think every one of us goes through that, where you try to figure out what your mission is, why we're here, what your purpose is, and my life wasn't making any sense to me. I didn't want those things that I wanted when I was a kid anymore. I didn't want to get married. I didn't have those same kind of goals. I didn't know what I wanted, and I really wanted to find that. It's very hard, I think, to wake up every day and not having meaning or purpose in your life. So I quit my job. This was 2007, and I was like, I need to leave Philly. I need to go someplace else, New York, Europe, Chicago, to find my purpose and find my meaning. And continuing to run every single morning. So it's about 5:30, and I'm out for my run, and a half mile away from my place in Philadelphia was a homeless shelter that I've ran by numerous times. And now I start to notice these group of guys standing outside. It's the springtime. They're hanging out on the corner, and I start to wave at them. We start to have a friendly relationship, and soon enough they become my cheerleading squad. And one day in late May, I remember running by them and thinking, why am I just running by these guys? Why don't I take them with me? You know, running doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, rich, poor, homeless or not. It can give them the same strength that it gave me, and maybe it can improve their lives a little bit. And more so, you know, this is something that I think is very important, and what is important for me personally, was that I wasn't attracted to these guys because they were homeless and I just wanted to help the homeless. For me, it was seeing my dad in a group of people and finally figuring out that maybe this was the way that I could actually help some people that remind me of him, maybe in some weird vicarious way would help him in return. So convinced this shelter to let me start this running club, and it took some convincing. He was like, there's no way this is going to work. And I said, you know, if you just ask them and get them interested, I'll take care of the rest. So I still have this email where he sent me the first 9 names of the guys who wanted to run. And I said, you know, great. I emailed everybody I possibly knew to get shoes, to get clothes, to get money, to get donations. And people started sending in all kinds of stuff. It was pretty cool, and from that initial moment, things just started to grow and get big. And we had our orientation at the shelter at the end of June of 2007 still. And I walk in there all smug and thinking I'm going to save these guys, and I get this reaction once again. I see arms crossing and people looking at me cockeyed, and again wondering, you know, who the hell is this woman and what does she possibly think she knows about us and can relate to us. And so I opened up about my familiarity with addiction, my relationship with my dad, as well as my love of running and what it did for me in my life and how I thought it could benefit them in the same way. So built a connection with them, built some conversation starters, and we had our first run on July 3rd, 2007. So